Welcome to the Nerve to Lead podcast. Here we explore power, pleasure, leadership, identity, belonging, parenting, and couplehood, and explore stories of navigating through life, finding both authenticity and attachment through the common lens of the nervous system. I am your host, Sangeeta Parthasarathy, and I'm so glad you're here. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Nerve to Lead. Today, I have a very exciting guest with me, Sanjeev, and Sanjeev runs Supermeme.ai and more. Sanjeev, tell us a bit more about yourself.
Hi, Sangeeta. Thank you so much for having me. So I am Sanjeev. For now, I'm one of the co-founders at Supermeme.ai. We're an AI meme generator. Apart from that, I also post videos on LinkedIn and Twitter, which has kind of grown to become my brand in the last couple of years, where I make fun of like SaaS, marketing, office meetings, and things that you see every day. So I just try to take my own spin at it and share. That's kind of what defines me now.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And Sanjeev's content brings a smile to me whenever I open LinkedIn. I just love it. Tell us a little bit about your journey from employee to entrepreneur.
Sure, Sangeeta. So I started working about like 10 years back. So just graduated from college and got placed, and you don't have a choice in what you do, right? So started working in customer support and then slowly transitioned into sales and then into product marketing and finally as a product manager. So over the past decade, I've kind of had a taste of everything, which I think is really helpful when you're trying to do something on your own, because you kind of need to see things from all the sides. And the Supermeme started as a side project about a year and a half back. So it is not like a classic entrepreneurship story where you drop everything and then you go build stuff out of a garage. So there is no story like that. So we started working on it. So 3 internet strangers. I have not met my co-founders in real life. We met each other on LinkedIn. And we formed a WhatsApp group, and that's how we operate till today. It's low fuss, it's low effort, but still high impact. So we started a side project, and then we were working on it for a while. And towards the end of last year, 2022, decided that I think I want a little bit more flexibility in the way that I work. So I felt, okay, Supermeme is growing, and there's some potential here. So let me kind of take some time to focus on it while I can take up some freelance, some contract to kind of pay the bills. But there seems potential to kind of go after it. So that's kind of how the journey happened.
That's amazing, and I love these non-traditional, just entrepreneurship. It feels like the traditional route that we all know is this whole either bootstrapped or you run the VC race, and then it's really nice to see like an organic growth. Tell us about humor and this blurring boundaries between B2B and B2C marketing. I think we spoke a little bit about this before the recording as we were getting ready to record, but tell us about the blurry boundaries.
Sure. I think that's something that I've observed from the sidelines, right? So I've worked in marketing, like I was telling you, but when you, let's say, work in B2B marketing, there is that constraint that you have to operate within, right? Okay. I've tried using memes in the past, and it was shot down by the marketing team and the legal team, which is interesting, saying that, we might run into copyright. This is at least 6-7 years back. And over the years, what happened was you saw a lot of innovating marketing on the B2C side, be it Wendy's, be it any of the consumer brands, constantly try to kind of, get in your face. And humor is a very powerful tool they use. The reason for that is humor sticks, right? Imagine scrolling on Instagram, you see a lot of posts, but then when you see a meme, you take a moment to see what it is, and you take a moment to kind of register. If you find it funny, you might even share it with people. So it has the potential to go viral. And meme is just one example of humor. Right? There are many other forms of humor. And B2C has been doing it for a while now. And B2B is also catching up, which is good for me, because that's kind of where my expertise is. And that's what I've been trying to do, where what you consider traditionally boring, what you consider traditionally as professional, humor now has a part to play in it. And I think it is a great differentiator, because literally when all your competitors are saying the same thing, we are efficient, we save time, we save cost, we have better UX or whatever, you need a way to stand out. And humor, I think, is a great way for people to kind of engage with their audience, where like you leave something in their mind, and brand recall is better when you lead with humor, because again, humor tends to stick. And when you make people laugh, they tend to remember you much better than just like sending them a marketing email or like a promotional message. So that's kind of how I feel. But I definitely see the lines blurring, because at the end of the day, the truth is that there's an old saying that, it's B2C, B2B. At the end of the day, it's edge to edge, right? Like it's human to human. And at the end of the day, you're all of us are marketing to the same people. Doesn't matter if B2C or B2B. And it's about figuring out what is the most engaging way that you can reach out to them and that you can get them to remember you. And humor, I think humor, irrespective of wherever it is used, is very effective.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And at the end of the day, people buy from people. That's one of the first things they teach you in B2B sales is like you're still selling to people, and
exactly.
That unconsciously decisions are made way before your product demo.
Yeah, it is an emotional decision, right? And that's what I also used to tell people in my team as well, right? Like when someone decides to buy your tool, they make up their mind with the emotional part of the brain, and they back it up with objective reasons with the logical part of the brain. So as long as you hit that emotional chord, they're going to make that decision by themselves.
Absolutely. And now, a small break to talk about more resources. We've created an assessment for high-functioning workplace stress, which you can download and use by clicking on the link in this episode's show notes. And now, back to the conversation. So when I was diving into neuroscience, it's like, like all of those decisions, if there's no safety, if there's no trust, if there's no emotional connect, then you're not going to win that game. Or whether it's multi-million-dollar deals or selling widgets or whatever the size of the sale is or the product. So thank you for that. Are there any funny anecdotes? Tell us about your work. So you are running this AI startup, and also companies can reach out to you to add humor to corporate messaging, I suppose. Any funny anecdotes to share?
Yeah, I mean, because I've been using memes even before they were called memes, right? I think that's it's kind of always stuck to me as a great way to communicate. I think, like I said, right, I've been trying to use memes in marketing. I think the first time I really did that probably was a conference in Scotland. It was an IT conference, and traditionally the presentations where you see bullet points, you see charts, and there's this huge screen, and I go up there and I press the clicker, and I'm standing there with a huge meme behind me, and the audience, they were surprised for a minute, and then they actually laughed. And I think that's kind of when I realized that it is that's not a reaction that you expect from presentation, right? Like you'd expect to see nods, maybe a few questions, but then you press a clicker and you pause for a few seconds and you see laughter. So that was really special. And I think that's kind of when I started using memes and I started doubling down on that. So every presentation that I do, there's at least 30 to 40% of is just memes on the slide. And that's when I realized that it's a really powerful tool to communicate to your audience. And so that is happening on one side. And then the pandemic hit, and then I started recording videos. So the story of that is I actually wanted to do a serious video. So I wanted to do like a productivity video, which is the fad back in 2020. And I recorded 3 ways to be productive, something like that. And I played it back, and I couldn't watch it. It is so bad, it's so boring. I realized, no one's going to watch it. While I have all the camera and everything set up, so why don't I try something crazy? And there's a stand-up comedian, her name is Alexis Gay, and she was doing something similar. She's from the US. So I wanted to emulate some of that, and I did my first product management video. What can you say in product management meetings? And that's kind of how it started. And all of that was I didn't really, and in fact, I didn't post it on LinkedIn first. I posted on Twitter and Instagram because I felt, LinkedIn is professional. You're not supposed to be funny there, and things like that. And someone pushed me to post it on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn has been my most successful platform. And I'm very grateful for the people who engage, who comment, like, and share.
This is very inspiring for me because I find myself still segregating. My whole life was on LinkedIn when I used to be in the SaaS and strategy consulting world. And then after my doula and my mental health business kicked off, and which is mostly on Instagram, this year I pivoted to using LinkedIn as the main platform. And I find myself segregate. Once we record content, we have conversations with the team, and I'm still a bit like, this is maybe too much, because I work with PTSD and CPTSD, and there's some really like, oh, if it's abuse, or there are some kinds of things that I'm still a little bit hesitant to post on LinkedIn. So I find myself censoring that a lot, but this is very inspiring, and it's going to help me be bolder about what you share on.
I'm glad. Like we said, right, it's all edge to edge. So I think it was a very, very late learning for me that at the end of the day, it's people everywhere. So if it's going to resonate in one platform, chances are it might resonate in the other platforms too.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. And I think as you were talking about memes, one thing that struck me was it makes sense, because when we are reading a lot of text, then we use one part of the brain. But when we are looking at an image, then the visual processing works differently, right? Therefore, it could be one of the reasons why there is the emotion factor that is closely associated with the meme. Therefore, it promotes recall. Therefore, it creates a deeper neural imprint, possibly. And it's fascinating. I'm going to go geek out on that after the call also.
And I'm going to take once the video's out, I'm going to take that snippet and I'm going to share it on LinkedIn, saying like there is science behind memes, and here's proof.
Oh yes. I'm literally going to do this after a call. I'll share with you what I find. But thank you. So how can people reach you? How can people work with you? Sure. Tell us more. Sure. How can people connect with you?
Sure, Sangeeta. I'm active on Twitter and LinkedIn. I have been trying to stay off Instagram because it kind of eats into my productivity, so I've uninstalled the app. But Twitter and LinkedIn are the easiest way to reach me. So I am currently freelancing as a business humor consultant. So what that means is I help companies infuse humor in their marketing, be it through memes, be it through the kind of videos that I do, or generally, let's say if you're going to go up on stage and do a presentation, I can help kind of add some humor into it, given that I've been doing it for a while. And if you want to use Supermeme.ai, and if you have any questions around it, always up for a chat, always up for a question. LinkedIn, Twitter is the best, and my email also. So I'm at Sanjeev@Supermeme.ai.
Love it. Thank you so very much. And thank you for sharing all of this work with us. And if you haven't watched Sanjeev's content, just go on LinkedIn. It's hilarious. Thank you, Sanjeev, and see you soon.
Thank you, Sangeeta. I learned a lot from this conversation too.
Thank you. A little bit of neuroscience behind why memes can be more effective than, for example, plain text-based content is because in our brain, we have language processing areas, the Broca's area and the Wernicke's area, and they are responsible for language comprehension, speech production, the syntax, etc. However, memes, which do employ humor, irony, sarcasm in terms of captions or written text, heavily rely on the visual content, which engages the brain and the brain's image processing centers. So the occipital lobe, these areas of the brain process visual information. They're responsible for interpreting patterns, shapes, colors, simple memes, clear images, short captions are more likely to be processed really quickly by the brain because on an average, visual processing is much quicker than language processing. This is because the visual system is a really fast and efficient way, and the brain has evolved to prioritize visual input over other forms of sensory input. So if we encounter visual information, the brain can process it really quickly and in parallel, and it can detect patterns, shapes, colors, movements in like millisecond. But language processing requires more cognitive resources. That is the higher order brain functioning, which means it is a more complicated process. So decoding symbols, assigning meaning, syntax, grammar, all of that. So it makes sense why memes are super effective. So that's one. I also wanted to touch on why humor is super effective, whether you're selling or teaching or engaging as opposed to anything else. From a neurobiological perspective, the humor and laughter is complex. It involves neural circuitry and physiological processes. But what happens in our brains is that we have 3 parts or pathways in our brain, and we need all of them to work together in tandem for optimal functioning. The first of which is the ventral vagal complex, also called the social engagement system or the social connection system, which involves the sensory processing through the 5 senses. And you want to think of it as like the shock absorber in a car. As you're driving through bumpy roads, a good amount of vagal tone is necessary for regulation and homeostasis, whether it's metabolism, immunity, emotional regulation, and the feeling of safety. Therefore, if I don't feel safe, then I'm not trusting the content, or I'm not engaging with the content, because then my defense systems are up. So what humor does is it triggers this ventral vagal circuitry, which is involved with social engagement and regulation. So when we feel calm and connected, then we feel safe, and then our higher order functions have a chance to come in to either learn or engage with the content. But also, when we encounter something funny, brain releases dopamine, which reinforces this behavior of seeking out more humor. Therefore, humor is a really good way to engage in anything. Therefore, use of funny memes can actually be a great way to put your point across, whether it's you trying to communicate a message or sell software. Thank you for joining me today on Nerve to Lead podcast. The music you hear in this podcast was created by Soundcreed. You can find their link in the description. Thank you to Vaishnavi in Team Sangpar for producing and editing this podcast. Did this episode resonate with you? If it did, please share it with your friends, family, co-workers, or clients. We would also love to hear from you. Drop us a note on www.sangpar.com.